Man United are prioritising the midfield position in this latest rebuild. Is that the right thing to do though? Well, obviously, with Casemiro leaving, this leaves a huge gap in midfield. Now the question that proposes is, can you replace Casemiro directly, or do you need 2 or 3 players to do what he did to make sure Man United don't fall short? Now, the only way to answer that question really is to break it down. What type of player we need? Are those players out there? And is it possible to do it with just 1 or 2 midfielders, or maybe even 3? All the talk recently is about a marquee signing. Can that actually even happen in this current climate? Look at the situation and look around you. Is there that midfielder in Europe that we could actually get successfully without going into a bidding war, without going into a long-winded saga that will last all the transfer window? And also, the club that you're buying from, will they make it difficult? Just remember what Barcelona did. And not just that, some owners, for example, the Tottenham owners, the Newcastle owners, to get one of their players. And let's not forget Nottingham Forest. Well, let's start there. Why? Because all the news is about Elliot Anderson. Will he go to Manchester City, or are Manchester United a realistic option for him? He is the latest midfielder that visually, when you watch him, he outshines everyone on the pitch. Let's take the Man United v Nottingham Forest game, for example. He was well and truly ahead of any player in that Nottingham Forest team. Why? Well, you saw the way he played. He had 2 assists, his crossing, his ball recoveries. He was all over the pitch. That's why he's got that £100 million price tag. And actually, from what I'm hearing, I think that will go beyond that, because Nottingham Forest and their owner, Marinakis, he is going to make it extremely difficult. Just remember what he did with the Morgan Gibbs-White saga. That man looked visibly terrified when he had to re-sign a contract because he went against what the club wanted. It's obviously difficult in the Elliot Anderson case. However, look at his stats. This guy has been a shining example for that team. It's what's kept them up. Without him in that team, I'm comfortably going to say that they would probably be relegated. Why? Because they've been down at the bottom of the league all season, and without his contribution, it was clear to me. Now again, they did go far in the Europa League. However, they lost to Aston Villa. But another day, a different team, you never know. So Elliot Anderson is that guy that everyone's talking about, the one that the club like, the backroom staff like, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, Vivel. They've all probably seen him, seen the stats, the statisticians at the club, all love him. It's just a matter of fact that, does his camp and the player want to join Man City for the money? And yes, you'd have to say the likeliness of winning things at Man City is a lot greater right now. Or does he join the project club, the up-and-coming club, the historical club, the biggest club in the world, Manchester United? Will he want to be part of that progression and that rebuild? I mean, for me, I reckon any player, and we've proven it in the past, top players still sign for Manchester United. We haven't lost that edge. We always sign top players, even at our worst times. Just look at Matheus, Cunha and Buemo, players like that who have come to the club. And even when we were 15th in the league, they signed for us, saying that Man United are the only club they would want to play for if they left their respective clubs. Elliot Anderson has to make that choice, and clearly at the moment, it's obviously that Man United are not high priority on his list. His progression into the player he is right now through Newcastle, I mean, it was crazy when they signed him. It was for 30-40 million from Newcastle to Nottingham Forest. Newcastle let him go quite easily because of their PSR issues. I mean, this is a damning indictment on Manchester United's recruitment policy. How did they miss this one? And there's countless players like this throughout the 13 years that we've missed. I'll pick the best one, or one of the best examples, is N'Golo Kante, going from Leicester City to Chelsea for 30 million. Ridiculous. If we sign that player, who knows? However, moving on from Elliot Anderson, the other marquee signing that everyone keeps talking about is obviously Tchouaméni. Now, this guy, again, has it all. For me, a choice between Elliot Anderson and Tchouaméni, well, Tchouaméni, obviously. Why? Because this guy's great in the air. He's a great tackler, ball recovery, his athleticism is amazing. He's the experience he has in the Champions League, La Liga, and obviously playing in France's national team and the type of players he's played around, unbelievable. But does he have the attitude and the conviction to play for Manchester United in this current team and this current era? Now that is the big question for him. What we're hearing about it is that is this just again agent talk, him trying to get a better contract at Real Madrid? I think there's a lot in that. And again, with this whole saga that's currently surrounding Real Madrid at the moment, with them going through these changes and these board changes and the new election that's going to happen there, and their current director, who Florentino Perez, is trying to get re-elected in the directorship role, and then has obviously got Mourinho back in there. Mourinho might be looking at this player and thinking he needs this guy, and do whatever you can to make sure he stays at Real Madrid. Why? Because he's a destroyer, a nasty player, a player that gets in your face, a player that gets the ball and goes. He's unbelievable. And Mourinho might be thinking that's the type of player I want. Now, the whole controversy that came out of Real Madrid recently with the fight between him and Valverde, Mourinho might be looking at that and thinking this is perfect. I absolutely love players like that. Players fighting each other, making sure that they are aggressive. Just look at his Chelsea teams. There's so many stories of these type of things that happened at Chelsea when Mourinho was the manager. He likes that nastiness where players just really hold each other to account. We had that at Man United too under Vidic and Ferdinand, of course. However, Mourinho and the way he plays and the style of football, that's his ethos. That's the way he loves it. You know, a lot of aggression, a lot of nastiness, and then that he transfers over to the pitch. And Tchouaméni, well, unless he's disillusioned with the whole project at Real Madrid, unless he's thinking that he's won everything, which he has at Real Madrid, and it's his next move, and he wants to play in the Premier League, then I can see him playing for Man United. But again, this one, it's going to be a big price tag. And will he want to play for Man United in our current wage structure? Elliot Anderson, probably yes. But Tchouaméni, well, he'll definitely want a big contract. Man United might be thinking, we don't offer these type of contracts anymore. Is it worth it? And if it becomes available, Man United, I think, should try, obviously. But when it comes to marquee signings and filling that Casemiro role, he would be perfect. But like I've said, does he want to come? Would he want to join the project? Does he want to be part of a rebuild? The most important question is this just all news? Is it just all agent talk? Sorry. I think it probably is. However, the point of this conversation is just to get to this. Can we replace Casemiro with one player, or should we look at replacing him with 2 to 3 players? Now, my suggestion is 3. Let's just take, for example, how much we would spend on an Elliot Anderson and Tchouaméni. Around about 100 to 120 million pounds. If you add another 20-30 million on top of that, let's say 150, I reckon you could get 3. We've already signed Ederson, 39 million pounds. Let's look at his stats in a second. And then Matheus Fernandes. Now, recent reports coming out of West Ham, they want 80 million pounds. Ridiculous. But then again, that's what clubs do. They leak these reports and then they try to negotiate in the newspapers. Well, it all comes down to what's happening behind the doors with agents, intermediaries, direct with the club. Man United will go to them, and Man United won't bid until they know a bid will be accepted. So, on the player side, he wants to come. He's a huge Bruno Fernandes fan, a Ronaldo fan. He was spotted in Manchester recently. Why not? And I think with the player, he definitely wants to come to Manchester United. It's just a matter of fact that hopefully another club doesn't turn his head, a club like Real Madrid. And again, you start getting these reports. Is it just West Ham putting out these reports on aggregator accounts just to help with the negotiation and the amount Man United pay for him? Maybe. However, Man United won't be foolish and just pay what West Ham will tell them. For about 50 to 60 million pounds, I think you get this player, which you'll probably leave around about 50 to 60 million pounds out of that 150 million pound budget for the midfield. And then you go for another player, a third player. And that player, I reckon, is one that's gone quiet at the moment, who's had a bit of an indifferent season, who's had his head turned by Man United and dropped a few levels, who I've got some doubt about as well. but Carlos Baleba. And why not? Obviously, look in hindsight now, Brighton are stupid for keeping him. We had £70 million ready to give to Brighton for him. They wanted 100 and above. They've clearly messed that up. He cost them, actually, you would say that a high performing Baleba probably did cost them a higher place in the league, possible Champions League spot. So, taking that into account, his levels dropped, his head was turned, and quite understandably, you see that in his stats. So, Man United will go in again for him. I reckon you keep it quiet for now, make it look like you're going for other targets, and then through intermediaries, test the water. But I don't think Man United should be paying anything more than 50 to 60 million pounds for him, and I think Brighton know that now. And Man United go there and say, well, it is what it is. You should have took the money at 70 million last year. But who was to know? Carlos Baleba could have well as easily had a fantastic season this year and went anywhere in the world for £100 million. Who knows? But that obviously didn't happen. So Man United in some ways have the upper hand. But let's compare these three players, Ederson, Matheus Fernandes and Carlos Baleba, and see how they can basically do the job of Casemiro and even more. Because one of them is going to be partnered with Kobbie Mainoo. Because the way I see what Man United are trying to do is a 2-2. It's almost like a Sheringham and Solskjaer, Andy Cole and Dwight York situation. Will it be Baleba and Kobbie Mainoo and Matheus Fernandes and Ederson, or a combination of that? I think that's the way that's what Man United are looking at. A cup team and a league team, or then mixture in between where they play games here and there. And I think Man United have been very clever about this because this is the engine of the team. You get that quartet right, add some youth in there. Why not? So let's look at the stats. Looking at last season, Matheus Fernandes, Ederson and Baleba all played around the same amount of games, 36, 35, 31. The difference between all three players, let's isolate this a little bit, is that Baleba played most of his games coming off the bench. That's why he's played half the minutes to Matheus Fernandes and Ederson. Now, goal-wise, these three players were never going to be huge goal scorers. Is this the type of player we're looking for? Not really. We're not really looking for an out-and-out number 10 or huge goal creator because we've got that in obviously Bruno Fernandes. What we are looking for is a player that can tackle, intercept, press, and obviously progress the ball well. And that doesn't necessarily, convert into goal scored because that's not the exact type of player we're looking for. I would more rely on a number 10 to do that. Let's look at the more pertinent stats to the type of player we need. Passing accuracy, 87%, 89%, 86.2. Great. They're all similar in that respect. Anything below 85 and you're starting thinking this is an average player. Are they passing just to the player right next to them, passing backwards? Just stat padding, basically. Here's where Fernandes and Ederson really come into light. It's their ball recoveries. 180, 191. And depending on where they are in that pitch, that's really, really good. Now, the difference will become later when you're seeing some of the stats, the difference between Fernandes and Ederson and why they probably won't play with each other. One of them will team up with either, let's say, Baleba or obviously Kobbie Mainoo. And you can see that in their defensive stats. Now, if you look at, let's just take Carlos Baleba, 37 tackles last season. And again, that's coming from a position of playing half the minutes. Let's just, for argument's sake, say you play the same amount. Well, then you're really looking into 35, 70, 72, 74. And that's really good. You're looking at a player that can really get his body in there, get his foot in there and break up the play. But at the moment, obviously he wasn't showing that last season. But when it comes to Matheus Fernandes, you can tell he's doing that. He's getting the ball, he's getting in there, he's getting the tackles in, and he's recovering the ball. Just look at his ball recoveries, 180 plus. But then you compare that to Ederson. The reason why I reckon Ederson has got a lot less is because he presses higher up. He's a kind of a number 8 for me. He's all around the pitch. He's chasing lost causes and he's pressing. Because even though he's got a lot less tackles than Fernandes, his ball recoveries are 191, which suggests to me that he's pressing high up. He's pressing in places where it's a one-on-one. So that's where I reckon there's a big comparison between the two. Now, I'm not going to compare them to Carlos Baleba because obviously the context and the situation there is he played a lot less games. Between these two guys, Matheus Fernandes is clearly that player that plays around that halfway line, where Ederson, he's all over the pitch. So that being said, their progressive carrying, taking the ball from defense into attack, I think all three are known to do that. Taking all this into account, this is why I reckon that we should sign all three players. There's no point us looking for that one marquee signing. Just imagine that Elliot Anderson or Tchouaméni gets injured, gets red carded. They're out for a lengthy period of time. That will completely ruin our midfield. Why? Because we just chose to put all our money in one player. There's obviously the reports saying that Man United have £250 million to spend. Well, we've got other positions to strengthen as well. But midfield is key. We've got a lot of centre-backs. We'll probably need a full-back. We've got a really good attack, but it does need to be supplemented by another striker, maybe a left winger. It's really important that we get the midfield right. I think it's quite obvious. Let's get three of them and then use them in a combination where two play in the Premier League, two play in the Cups, or a combination of both, because these guys are not known for huge injuries. These guys are not known for discipline issues. I reckon you get this combination right with Kobbie Mainoo, you're looking at a really, really good, tough midfield, a progressive midfield, a midfield that can play 90 minutes week in, week out because of their age, because of the way they've looked after themselves, because of their injury records. And the stats suggest that these guys, they've got a rounded game to them. Tackling, progressing, pressing. So my stance with the whole midfield issue is, do we get that marquee signing? What is a marquee signing? Because we don't know that marquee player might be Baleba. He might come to Man United and absolutely tear it up. And last season was just a blip because his head got turned. Matheus Fernandes has been relegated twice, but he comes to Man United and he's that Vitinha. Remember where Vitinha came from when he went to PSG? From Wolves. Now he's been talked about getting the Ballon d'Or. So it's clear that these type of players, well, they could be that marquee without just the name. They could be that one next season where we see them turn into that £100 million player, but obviously we won't be selling them. Ederson, he's coming to the last year of his contract. There's been talk about him signing for Man United in the past, 2-3 years? And they've seen the way he's played, they've seen how he's progressed. And no, he didn't go to the Brazil national team, but it was a combination of certain players that they already had that they unfortunately made that decision to leave him out. And one of the biggest ones was Casemiro. Because the reason why he didn't go is because Casemiro took his place and he was a similar type of player to him. And the way Brazil are, the makeup of their national team at the moment is they're relying on experience. Just look at, they've taken an injured Neymar to the World Cup. And now, is he going on vibes? Is he going on reputation? Or is he going on an ability? Well, he's clearly not good enough to play in Europe anymore, and he's got an awful injury record, so who knows. However, as I've said, three of these players, add Kobbie Mainoo to it, get the combination right. I think it's better for Manchester United to go for this type of scenario and leave paying 100 million plus for a player like Tchouaméni, who may have attitude issues, discipline issues, or in Elliot Anderson alone. Why? Because going to Nottingham Forest and Marinakis, it's going to be extremely difficult. And it's clear that Elliot Anderson, well, we're not his first choice. Why? Because Man City have already had a bid rejected. It looks like we're just waiting in the back row to see if anything happens and the negotiations fall through and we'll step in. So what do you think? Do you think we should get that one marquee signing plus one, or go for a combination of 3-4 players? And that's what I'm thinking. Let's start a discussion. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.